Welcome to Mallett and Michelle on Dripping Springs, hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, and Steve Mallett, who he is only afraid of one thing and one thing only, and that is zombies.
Actually, yeah. I'm afraid of zombies.
But you like zombie movies.
I love zombie movies. Even the cheap, trashy ones that are on Netflix that cost like $12 to make. I'll sit and watch those.
Oh,
I
good.
love zombie
cheap
movies.
Entertainment. Now I know. I'm gonna dress up like a zombie.
The thing, somebody was asking me about that the other day. The thing I like about zombie movies is the second there's a zombie in your city, all the other stuff that's important in our day-to-day lives just ceases to exist.
True.
It's like, oh, I got a mortgage payment? Pfft, screw that. There's zombies. I don't care.
What's your favorite zombie movie?
Oh, World War Z is probably one of my favorites.
Mine
Brad
is
Pitt.
That's a good one. I haven't seen that one in a while. Mine is I Am Legend. I love
that's
that
a good
movie.
one too. Yeah,
It's
I've seen
scary.
that a few times.
They're
All right.
supposed to come out with a precursor to that one.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that. And Michelle Lewis, who can't pronounce the word Adirondack. Come on.
Adirondack.
Oh, you did it.
Adirondack.
Do it again. Do it twice.
Adirondack.
Oh, you did it.
Oh, no, there was another word I couldn't say the other day. What was the word?
Oh,
I can't remember.
I don't remember
I
either.
botch so many things.
you do, but nobody knows because you just roll right past it.
I think it's because, I've said this before. I'm dyslexic, but I see things phonetically in my head, and so.
Well, you were cracking me up last night. We were at that house, and you were telling them how to stage that. Yeah, and you were like, "Yeah, you just put those Adirondack chairs over here." She looked at you.
It's Adirondack.
Oh.
Speaking of zombies, I had something horrific happen to me. A zombie hacked my social media.
They did, yes.
I'm going to try not to use a very bad word now.
They got you on Instagram?
They got me on Instagram, and it was awful. They changed my password. They changed my phone number, and all of the protective measures that Instagram or the wonderful world of Meta says that you can go to recover your account. None of them work. And when I would say, forgot password, it would go to Scumbag Zombies email address. And I even had the two-factor authenticate.
Look at that.
Authentication.
There's no fication. There's no fication.
Is there an F in authentication?
No, authentication.
Authentication. Okay.
Adirondack.
There's none of that. Or I had that in there. And I think that they hacked my email and went in and did it that way. And so I have now been on a password change. My password is no longer password hackers. And it's crazy.
It's actually scary to think that the amount of information they can get about you and how much stuff they can change.
You want to know what's even scarier? Is that friends of mine have actually questioned the fact that I'm selling Bitcoin.
Oh, I know.
To them.
Yeah, it's whoever hacked you sent it to me. It's like, hey, I made so much money on this Bitcoin investment. You should jump right on it. It's like, really? You think that's legit?
Yeah.
That's obviously some 12-year-old in something Zekistan that's sending that to you, right?
Oh, it was awful. It was very, it happened early Saturday morning. So my 4th of July weekend was kind of screwed over.
It's amazing how much that just changes the course of your life trying to figure that out.
It felt very,
you can't relax.
It felt very invasive because I have like all my story archives and stuff like, now granted, like my social media is pretty locked down to who I want my social media to. Now, not my business accounts. Those are all open, but what I share and who I share it with, I try to be very cautious.
Yeah.
So Jerry, who claims to be a surgeon, but looks like he lives in the Middle East. He's not getting through to me.
Yeah.
But somehow this got through. But along with this week, something even more awful happened to a friend of mine, and his social media was hacked, and there were pictures of pictures online.
Pictures he doesn't want anybody to see but his wife.
Yes.
And
my eyes are bleeding a little bit. I didn't even, I think I told you right when it happened, I said I was going to go bury myself in shallow grave.
The thing that's scary about that to me is that wasn't done for a reason, right? There wasn't some money payout. There wasn't some kind of benefit to the person that hacked into his account. That was just malicious.
Yeah.
That person hacked into his phone, saw those pictures, and then went and hacked into his social media and posted those on the social media just for the purpose of embarrassing him.
I guess, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I haven't admitted the fact that I've seen the pictures to him because I don't want to put further embarrassment.
I don't think you should.
I'm not going to.
Yeah, I think he probably knows, but
I'm never going to be able to look at him the same again. Oh.
Did you know the iPhone is 15 years old as of June 29th? Just 2 weeks, couple weeks ago.
15 years old. Gosh,
it's been around for 15 years.
What did you have? What was your first cell phone?
First cell phone was one of those brick cell phones with the little rubber antenna on the bottom. It was like the size of a brick, and you would.
That was your personal one?
That was my personal phone, and it was your plan was like $100 a month, and you got like 12 minutes. And yeah, it was super crazy. And then if you went over your 12 minutes, it was like $9 a minute or some ridiculous thing. It was crazy. It was so expensive.
I worked for Motorola when the cell phones came out, and you had to carry like a briefcase around. But I got that for free because I was trying to keep in contact. And then it was like pagers and all the other stuff. But I think mine was that like little Nokia. And when you would text, you'd have to be like, you'd have to go through the whole alphabet to say hi or something. Oh, I know. You know, the texting. How
ridiculous were those?
And they used to charge you for texting.
Yep.
But the iPhone.
Like per text. It was like 30 or 45 cents per text.
Oh, it was crazy. Text. But can you imagine like I take such advantage now so the iPhone was out in 15 years ago.
2007.
I don't even remember. What did the original iPhone have a camera?
It did not. So and everybody thinks the iPhone was the original smartphone. It was not the original smartphone.
The Nokia?
There were
the BlackBerry.
Nokia had one, BlackBerry had one, and Motorola had one. And BlackBerry, remember, was like the business phone. Everybody had a BlackBerry because it had an actual physical keyboard. Mm-hmm. And iPhone wasn't sure how people were going to take with the
touch screen
keyboard, and people had a real hard time with that. Apparently, there was like this whole learning curve. People didn't understand the swiping and didn't understand how to type. They were saying it took a good year till 2008.
You still don't know how to text.
I don't. I'm the worst texter in the world. I'll stand there in the kitchen trying to send somebody like a nine word text like, yes, I'm on my way. I'll be right there. And it takes me like 3.5 minutes. Like, no, I didn't mean to say Bjorn is in the bathroom or whatever.
I'm never meaning to say duck. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And a couple of things. So I read this article about the iPhone turning 15 years old, and they interviewed some of the people that had been a part of the development of the original iPhone. And they weren't quite sure how it was going to be received. They never realized it was going to be the product that it is. And when they opened the App Store, they were hoping that developers would maybe put like 50 apps a week up there for people to consider loading onto their phone. In the second week that they opened the App Store, they were getting 25,000 apps a week.
Oh my gosh.
And they didn't even have a department at Apple to handle that. They had to go start this department to review these apps that were coming in, 25K a week.
And yet people still just only chose Candy Crush.
That's true. It's true. Yeah. But the first phone was added, I think they said 2011 was when the camera was added.
When did you get your first iPhone?
I think I got one
pretty close.
Probably 2008, maybe 2009.
I like to razz people, especially because we communicate with our clients a lot through text. And you can name, if everybody has an iPhone, you can name that.
And if somebody else is on Android, then it just doesn't work.
Well, because we get so many texts. And so for me, it's easier to name it 123 Main Street. And I know what property we're talking about in relation to real estate. If you guys didn't know, we're in real estate. Yeah. And, we just deal with so many properties. And
that's right.
You'll say, hey, just send a text to so-and-so. And if I saved you save all the clients, but I don't save all.
I'm obligated to save all my texts.
Am I obligated to save all my text or all my phones?
If they're the group texts, then I have them on my phone.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm on them.
And I archive them every once in a while into a folder so that if God forbid we ever get sued, I can refer
That's a
back
good
to those.
idea.
I mean, legally, I'm supposed to keep all those.
Yeah.
But, there was a couple things that people have forgotten about the iPhone. One is all these new apps, right? And you mentioned Candy Crush. One of the guys that was the original developer, they didn't realize this was going to be a problem. He was letting his daughter play on his, I guess it was iPhone. Was the original one iPhone 4? I think it was.
Maybe it was just called iPhone.
It might have been just called. Anyway, she was playing on the phone and she was playing a game called Smurfs. And the next month he got a charge on his credit card for $450 worth of Smurf berries that she bought online.
Hey,
So,
Steve, next time I go buy staging stuff, it's just for Smurf
it's
berries.
just Smurf berries. But nobody ever thought about that. There's really, there's going to be 6-year-old kids buying stuff, buying add-ons to these games. But so then they changed it to how they charge, how the App Store charges people for that stuff. And then, so the camera must have come on before 2011 because 2010 was the first time they did the front-facing camera. And you know what the front-facing camera produced?
What's that?
The word selfie.
Oh, disgusting.
The selfie had never, that word hadn't really even existed prior to a front-facing camera. And when they put the front-facing camera on there, these engineers were saying, what are people going to use this for?
I think that I think the occasional selfie is okay, but this is just personally me speaking. And if you do this, I think you're this person. If you regularly post selfies of yourself on social media, you are a narcissistic. You are just.
I'm raising my hand.
No,
I do
weird.
a lot of selfies.
You don't.
It's maybe
no,
not
you
a
don't.
lot.
You're like if you post what you just said, what a selfie, you're exercising or something like that. You're not just posting a picture like just of your face.
I've never done one going, hey, look at me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No,
it's just your
right.
face.
Yeah, don't I look good today?
Yes, it's like, oh my gosh, you.
One of the couple of other things that came out of the iPhone when it was introduced, when they started having these meetings, so everybody at Apple got an iPhone, and they would start having meetings right when this phone came out, and all of a sudden the engineers realized people were in those meetings sending emails and sending messages where prior to that you would go in a meeting and you'd sit and pay attention and you'd write some notes down. But now everybody was on their phone sending emails. And he said, and the number of emails and texts that came through increased 10 times almost overnight. So the amount of information
So they're
that
talking
we were
about
getting,
productivity.
productivity.
Raised?
Yeah. No, because what ended up happening was it used to be that somebody would maybe save it up and send an email with 3 or 4 things in there. And now we have this happen to us. Somebody says, oh, that's important. I need to talk to that person about that later. I'll text them now. Then I don't have to remember it. Then it becomes the other person's problem. So now there's all this information going back and forth. We're not even keeping track of it most of the time.
No.
But it allowed people to send messages that probably didn't need to be sent. And think about that. If you look back, if you really look at your
text,
texts,
my life.
I know. If you really look at your texts, 75, 80% of them probably didn't need to be sent.
Well, there's a lot of memes, but there is something to be said about that. I do like when you and I are at an event, and if we're sitting on opposite ends and our telepathic eyes, like where we could look at each other in the eyes, it's not working. A lot of times all we have to do is just look and just be like,
it's true.
You know that I know, and I know that you know.
I know.
And I know. But then sometimes I got to just throw in a little text. And
I know. To make sure we're on the same page.
And I sit there and I'll send it, and I'll just wait. I'll wait for you to look at your watch or pick up the phone.
Yeah. And then we smile at each other and laugh. Yeah. One of the engineers that they interviewed said that one of the things he didn't expect, and he didn't think it was a great thing, was how people went to very important events in their life and they stared into their phone instead of enjoying the moment.
I've seen that. I've seen that so many times.
So you see your kid being born or baptized or a wedding or, you go to some place you've always wanted to go. And instead of enjoying that moment, you stare in your camera to make sure the picture looks good.
I say that's definitely in the con pile, but I think that a lot of the pro pile is my brother was deployed when my grandmother passed away, and he was very sad that he couldn't be there. So whether it was tacky or not, but I set up a live. excuse me, and he could watch it that way. Now,
but that's
weddings,
different. If you look at what most people are doing, it's like, hey, this is me walking up to the edge of the Grand Canyon. It's the first time I've ever been here. And they're staring in their phone instead of looking at that great expanse of beauty.
Hey, friends.
I know.
Look, I'm standing right here. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. And the other thing is we spend too much time on these devices. They become like
guilty,
almost attached. We've become attached to them. And kids don't use them as phones.
No, parents don't use them as phones. Parents use them as babysitters.
Wow,
and
that's
shame
true.
on you if you are in the grocery store or you're at the restaurant and your kid is consistently on a freaking iPad.
I know.
They need to learn social awareness. They need to learn to sit their butts down.
I was
going to
say they need to learn that you just need to sit and be a little bored.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. They would say, oh, well, if you had this capability, you know what? If I grew up with it, you're probably right. But I always had either tic-tac-toe or Play. I carried Play-Doh all the time. Play-Doh,
games
silly putty,
or books or
always something to keep my kids entertained.
I know.
That's just the worst parenting thing that's going on right now. Okay, in my opinion, I just see it and I tell my kids, if you do that to my grandkids, I'm ripping that iPad.
I know. Yeah. I mean, if you do it once a week or something.
once in a while. But it's just these kids, their eyesight's being affected, their ability to socialize is being affected. They have it in the back of their cars.
I know.
It's just consistently, they're bombarding. They're going to sleep with it. They're eating breakfast with it. What happened to just reading the back of a freaking cereal box?
I know. Well, we just need to be aware. I mean, if you think about it, we just need to be aware how much time we spend on our phones and that life is happening all around us. And sometimes we just need to look up and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a necessary evil sometimes, but I agree with you. And speaking of that, Brandon Cruz is our next guest.
Yes.
Former Navy SEAL, but he is a security analyst as well. And he's kind of done some protection outside of when he retired being a
great
SEAL.
Guy. Yeah. And he got the idea to join the military right after 9/11.
Right after 9/11, yeah. So,
and I need to have a little bit of a warning. He's a fantastic guy, and we really enjoy knowing him. But he's a sailor.
That's
and
right.
He curses like a sailor.
Probably like me.
Yes, he does. That's right. Right. And one more thing before we get Brandon in here, we hired an analytics company to help us grow our business, grow our podcast. And they've been harping on us to ask all of you listeners out there to follow us and leave a review on whatever platform you listen to. So if you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcast.
If you like when I call him Speedo Steve, write that in the comments.
Yeah, write
I love
it in
that.
the comments.
Write whatever you want in the comments, as long as it's not bad about me and makes fun of Steve.
And the number one thing that helps us grow is following us and leaving a review. So
I would
please
appreciate
do that. Yeah. So we're going to take a little break and get Brandon in here. So if you're easily offended by a little bit
colorful
language, then
now's probably the time.
Maybe go listen to a different podcast.
But you know what? He's amazing. He's an amazing story.
Amazing man. So
just suck it up, Buttercup.
I hope you will sit in and listen. But we're going to take a little break and get Brandon in here. So talk to you soon.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallett Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at mallettintegrityteam.com.
Welcome back. We have Brandon Cruz here with us, local Dripping Springs resident. He was a Navy SEAL for almost a decade, and he's going to talk about his experiences. And Brandon, welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. This is fun.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
I have a personal connection with Brandon. Brandon helped train Tate before he went to become a rescue swimmer. So my connection with Brandon is very admirable.
I want to hear about that. Let's get a little background. When did you move to Dripping?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I'm going to be honest with you. My timelines, my memory sometimes. So I've been here probably about 10 years.
Okay.
Roughly. I think what brought me to Drip, I got out of the military about 2011.
Okay.
We moved to Austin. We moved to North Austin.
Okay.
And it just wasn't really feeling, that vibe. And so, we ventured south, and man, we found a home. We were looking. I was actually doing some anti-piracy, some contracting overseas, and Tess had really found a good spot, and I was like, okay, well, let's get it.
Yeah.
I figured that at some point, Austin was going to grow. I didn't have any idea it was going to be like this.
Yeah.
I know.
But after experience, I'm like, someone's going to, get in here and be like, this is a gold mine.
Yeah.
Which it is, right?
I know, and the secret's out.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt, right? Callie's in, everybody's in, which is great. I mean, I love the influx of things, it's good to, have, some culture and some other, places, but it does, it makes things different, definitely living here, I moved here because I wanted to be in the country. I love the country vibe. I had a good school system.
It's not really
like,
country anymore, is it?
No, not at all.
But we still have, I think, a sense of community, unlike other
I think
places.
we do have that. Don't you think we have the community feeling?
100. Founders. Was one of the great things I loved about this place. You go there and you get, I'm sure not many people know what this is, but I do a lot of the personality tests, mainly because of my wife.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's she's a spiritualist. She's the raddest person. I've been married for 22 years, so like, she's everything. I mean, we've been dating since 7th grade. She's like my best friend. So right. But
Tess is an amazing person.
She's an amazing person. It's really the reason why I'm here. But I did the personality test, and I'm a number 7 on the Enneagram. Now, if you don't know, imagine like, some of the characters. It's like Tigger. Right. I'm a big kid, I love to laugh. I love to laugh. Yeah. And, but I do have a serious side.
A Navy SEAL Tigger.
I always imagine myself, I had to draw a character. I would draw, a Tigger with a kit on it, but
Tigger on the trigger.
Oh, that's a good one.
Really, I don't even know where was I going with that.
Why you moved here?
Yeah.
Was it the schools that brought you here?
The schools was definitely one of the reasons why we came out here. Although it was a little more stringent than I, personally, because my kids, they needed special, attention, things like that. So it was a little rough, but I love the people out here.
Oh, I do too.
And that's kind of what I've always kind of come accustomed to, growing up. I grew up in a really small town when it was.
Where did you grow up?
Burleson, Texas.
Okay.
South of Fort Worth.
Okay.
So...
And that's
Super
where you
country.
met Tessa.
That's where I
in
met Tessa.
Seventh grade. Some of the cute little pictures that he'll post online about when they were little Brandon. Little Brandon.
She's really been such a huge inspiration, just to like, I don't know, live for her. For a person. Like, I'll cry.
Oh, that's sweet. So she's been with you since, when did you know you wanted to be, when did you want to join the military?
Yeah.
And she's been with you since that point, right?
Yeah, she has.
And she encouraged you, she must have.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, she wasn't, there wasn't a war. It was right before the war, and I'd met one of my classmates, right? was a pretty good athlete in high school, right? I mean, wasn't the greatest, but I wasn't the worst, right? I was somewhere in between, and I always had inspirations of doing something physical, and I was like, man, the military sounds really cool, right? Although I've never shot a gun before, right? Can you imagine that, living in there? I don't know. I mean, maybe shot one shotgun, a rifle, but, we didn't have any in the house, we just didn't carry it. My dad didn't carry it, so I don't know. And I mean, all my friends had them, 4-wheelers and shotguns and shooting pigeons off the back, what I mean? Blowing stuff up in the country, it wasn't a thing, I loved it. We could burn things, it was like, it was okay, bare feet everywhere, but I don't know. What were we talking about?
Where you grew up.
So, I mean, after that, I was about 19 years old, and just out of the high school, just trying to find my way, and I was like, man, I really want to do something, right? And there was a book out, and it was like a Navy SEAL book, right? And I read it, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do this book. It was someone, former Navy SEAL, and he put out like a fitness book. It was probably hated by every team member.
Yeah, probably true.
Especially at the beginning, And in the beginning, this wasn't like good culture, like to be on the podcast and talk about anything.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about
SEAL related,
because up until about 10 years ago, you guys all just operated in anonymity.
Lone Survivor, I think, changed a lot.
Yeah.
It really did. It was a really, strong story done with, Marcus and all of those boys, and the story that unfolded. But I think that was the beginning of what you see today.
Yeah.
It's been kind of a slow roll, a book here, a book there, a movie and things. And now, being a SEAL now, I didn't think it was going to be like this.
You didn't join. So did you join the Navy specifically to become a SEAL, or because back when you joined, you had to be in the Navy, then you could apply for SEAL?
I think there was that in the beginning. I signed on with a SEAL contract, and then around boot camp, they did like a heart exam, and there was like a murmur or something. It was something different.
Yeah.
So I actually got shipped out to Virginia for about a year and a half, maybe a little more. And I had to go through the whole process again. I was a parachute rigger out there working in one of the aviation. And I was actually just packing parachutes for the guys that were going, in the planes and stuff like that. So what an experience, to go through it. But I know this is kind of random, but we're talking about the Navy. I didn't know at that age, when me and Tess were just newly joined, we weren't even really married yet, and I think we had just gotten married, and I was like, man, I want to be a SEAL. And there was like a book out, and that was it. And I had a friend, and we did the whole book. His name was William Overschneider. William, if you're over there, I love you. And I think he ended up joining the Army, and I lost contact with him, but we ended up doing that whole bit. And, Tessa was like, hey, I don't want you to go.
Yeah.
I don't want you to go die. What are you talking about? You sound crazy.
Well, yeah, because the stigma around it then was, you're just, it's kind of it's true. Y'all are badasses. Let's be honest.
Yeah, right. And, I was asthmatic, I didn't shot a gun, but I had a lot of grit. I knew it, so I wanted to prove it. And, then 9/11 happened, and I was going
So you were in the Navy when 9/11 happened?
No, I wasn't. I was in a community college. I was, brand new married. And, I was actually in a class. They said, hey, go outside. You need to check this out. Right. And, we all zoomed out of the class. It was kind of like 13th grade, really. You know what I mean? Where I was at, all your classmates, I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm going to go. Let's go do it. I'm going to follow, because I didn't know what I was going to do. And school was never my thing anyway. But anyways, I went outside and I looked up on a wall, and there was, TV mounted up there, and it was what was happening. Right. And
that's crazy.
Things were crashing into.
Crazy day.
Yeah, it was a crazy day. And that impacted my life. And
you said a couple months later, it was like,
tragedy.
That's it. I'm gone.
I was like, I went on the delayed entry
Tate. Yep.
And I was like, man, I need some time. I need some time to get some shape, and some mindset, because I can't go in there not ready to fight. So, I took the time. I dedicated as much time as I could to train. And then, I got a chance to go, I think 2003, I think.
Tell me about Hell Week. Flash forward to you being in Coronado and
Hell Week, man, what an experience again. This is why I love our connection, because your boy Tate, right? And I had a chance to really make a difference because I got a chance to walk through it, and I know that someday he will too.
Yeah.
Cool kid.
Thank you. We like him. He's growing on me a little bit.
Yeah. He's a really cool kid. But I would have never had that experience if I didn't get a chance to go through myself. And I think that I always explain it to him, you're finding parts of yourself you didn't know. You walk to this place where you got to make decisions, dude. You got to I'm either, going to quit or, there's this other life for me,
Yeah.
So what am I willing to give up now to go?
You told him that don't have option 2.
Yeah.
You have only option 1, and that's to finish. Yeah. Do not have option 2.
It's better that way.
Yeah.
It's better to be
don't have a backup plan.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do.
Yeah. So when you joined, so you joined the Navy and you went right into SEALs, but then they sent you to the parachute?
No, I'm sorry if I got that confused. I went into the Navy with the SEAL contract, and in boot camp, they do all the tests, right? They say, hey, go do the run, the push-ups and stuff. And they also do EKG on you. And during that process, they found something wrong with my heart. So I had
spend a year.
I had to go through another process and go to another cardiologist who ended up saying I had an athletic heart, and it just shifted. And it just read weird. Now, I don't know what that is, you know what I mean? But it gave me the okay. And so I was like, okay, I put my package in, and then I was off, and me and Tess, and, we're.
So when you got accepted, do you go right to Coronado?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of waiting period, you know, but yeah, there's a next
But I
class
mean, that the very first part of being a SEAL is you go to Coronado and step right into the program.
Yeah,
There's not like some interim thing.
there once you get there, there's a period of indoctrination.
Okay.
You know, where they basically indoctrinate you. You know, they give you the clothes, they give you the stuff, but there's a lot of knowledge there, right? There's students that have been there for a while, may have been rolled back. Maybe you got some buddies there that can meet up later. You know, there's a little interweb of where, you know, you can get some more information once you get there, you know, not like it is now. Like you got all the information, you know, it was different.
It wasn't the internet where there's wealth of information on there. You're going there blind.
No. And I'm glad it wasn't really, to be honest with you. Yeah.
And so you go through this indoctrination period in Coronado. Were you in pretty good shape at that point?
Yeah, I felt like I was, you know, I mean, I didn't have really anything to go by. So like my workouts when I was working out in shorts and shoes.
Yeah.
Right? Not that much in pants and boots, right? What a dummy.
Yeah.
You know, looking back, I'm like, dude, spa, you know, hit you in the back of the head. Like, you fucking, like, come on, man. Like,
When I
that's all
see
they
kids
do.
running around the neighborhood when I used to with backpacks, I was like, oh yeah, they must be under Brandon. Brandon must have.
You know, and you know, I didn't know about what pain levels were. I thought I did. I thought I was tough, right? I was working out with, you know, myself, and you know, I was just doing, you know, stuff with another, probably, you know, a young cat, and just, you know, doing the workouts. But like, there's levels to this, you know, and
Mentally as well as physically.
Yeah. And I know I probably said this before, but showing up to Buds, I thought it was going to be something spectacular, you know, like, and it just wasn't. I mean, it wasn't. It was sand. It was logs. There was ropes, you know, and there's a beach and some ocean, right? And that was it, you know. I was like, man, it just wasn't. But once the instructors came out, you know, like those guys just came back from being overseas, there was a real difference, you know, in the way that they moved. You know, I mean, I'm sure
the way they carried themselves.
Yeah, the way they carried themselves. It was more of a primal kind of being walking around, and you noticed it. You noticed right when, you know, you experienced it. You were like, okay, well, this is different. And
it's energy that you were probably attracted to. And there's people that you went through this program with that didn't make it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
you know.
So, yeah, how many guys in your, it's a class, right?
Yeah, it is a class.
How many guys didn't make it?
Yeah, I ended up graduating with 254. I think the ending, this is where I'm terrible at.
Yeah,
that's all right.
I think we ended up like starting with 2 something. Everyone's going to be like, dude, the fuck you don't know. I don't know, but I never cared about the shit. You know, I was in, you know, if anybody wants to keep the stats, you know, that's on you. I don't really give a fuck, you know, it's not me. But and then we ended up with like 20 or 30 or something like that. You know, it's a pretty significant
rate,
drop, you know, attrition rate. But oh man, it's just like every phase, every day, you know, there was like, you know, no pauses. There was, you know, and it really led up to what the lifestyle really is.
What I want to know is, how did Tessa handle that separation from you? And because I know for a fact, my son literally went crazy during his A school becoming a rescue swimmer. And he had to detach from me, from somebody who was nurturing and loving. He told me he had to mentally detach from me for a little bit.
Yeah. How long did you go without talking to Tessa?
Oh, I mean, there was periods, months, you know.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, when you're overseas, it's totally different, right? But I think during the schools and things like that, there would just be weeks, you know, sometimes maybe a month, you know, maybe not that long, because you did have, you know, good connectivity.
Communication.
Yeah, we still had, you know, cell phones.
Did she have a
and
good
things
support
like that.
system that helped her?
She made it, really, you know. I mean, there was always avenues, you know, to have support, you know, through friends, through, you know, organizations within the Navy, you know, that they give you, you know, to, you know, hey, there's this meeting, or, you know, whatever, you know, places to have support, like you said. But, you know, she went to church. We went to church a lot, especially growing up. You know, me and her were both youth, you know, pastors at one point. And so she always found a connection at church. And then she ended up, you know, while I was in the military, she did her own military ministry at it's a rock church in California, and I mean, you know, she's over here doing her thing too. You know, she always has been. She's just a really cool person.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Wait, at what point did you guys start having kids? Were you?
I was in the Navy. When I started Buzz, my boy was, I think, 1.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So we had, and then I think I ended up having my baby girl around 3rd phase or something
You
like
just
that.
say your baby girl,
Yeah.
and your face totally lights up. You're this like badass Navy SEAL, tough as nails.
Yeah.
And you mention your girls, your wife and your daughter, and you just melt.
Yeah, you know, how do you not though? You know, your babies, your kids. It ends up. You know, I have such a really genuine, good relationship with at least in my opinion, you know, with all my kids and my wife, and so, you know, I just value them. You know, it's hard to not like woo joy. You know, when I say their names, because you know there's little images of both of us. You know, and they're on their known, you know, unique people, right? You know, so you just kind of like celebrate that always. You know, at least I do.
Do you think some of your experiences, because part of what you do as a SEAL is you're exposed to some of the crappiest people in the world, right?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. So do you think maybe your appreciation for your family was because of, that's the good in the world versus these crappy people you got to be around?
Yeah. I mean, man, yes, absolutely. I think that's a big, you know, reason why I appreciate this place that we're in today.
Yeah.
Much appreciation for the ability to like maneuver in the way that we do, love and say the things that we say. I mean, oh man, yeah. I mean, it gives you much appreciation for your family. I mean, being overseas and seeing things, you know, that are just, man, they're just so fucked up, man, you know? Yeah, and it's just like, you know, it's hard to it's hard to even come back and, you know, tell a story, you know, because it's like, but there's such good people over there too, you know.
Well, I'm talking about the people that you had to go out. And,
absolutely.
You know, the bad guys.
The bad guys.
Yeah. I noticed.
And you know what though, brother, they're here too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You know, I wish that I had a good story, you know, like overseas and here, but like I feel like today, speaking of that, no, man, I think that like, you know, we're still kind of under fire, you know, a little bit. Like,
not the truth.
And not from like everybody else, but like our kids, like, you know, like these shooters and
they're
like,
being
you know,
bombarded with everything.
It's a hard place to like, you know.
I wanted to
set your
ask
head
you
on.
about that. How, you know, you are, you're trained in all these weapons and firearms and hand-to-hand combat and all that. How do you feel about this violence that's going on in our country today?
It's hard, right? You know, when you have 2-3 parties, you know, really just our country's divided, you know, when you can put on a hat, you know, and it's basically like Crips and Bloods, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh fuck, it's gang signs, bro.
Yeah.
I know.
We're so divided. And you know, like I said, I don't feel like our biggest threat right now is completely outside, although that's
I feel
the
it's within.
overarching
We're destroying
era.
ourselves
But
from within.
we're killing ourselves, and people are just watching it go. You know?
What do you think the answer is, though?
I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, you know, it
Noah's
has to
Ark.
start at the
I know.
at the top somewhere, right? You know, I know, right? It's a hard one. I don't know if there are any answers right now. I think that like everyone should just adapt, you know, and know that like we can only control us, yourself, you know,
and protect your family.
Yeah,
Do
and
what
you
you
have to
can.
keep tribal, right? I think the Native Americans, man, I love all the stuff Native American. You know, they said that the best thing that you can do for the world is be good to yourself, right? And I think that would exude so much.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
just start here, your inner self, be the best you can be, you know, and it's hard in this world, you know, and sometimes you need support, you know, so I don't know what the right answer is, you know. I think as much love can be shown should be, you know.
Brandon, you mentioned before we started recording, you were talking about the transition of when you got out of the Navy and the world that you lived while being a SEAL versus the world you live now. Is just, you know, the dad, you know, I mean, you know, your nickname in the neighborhood is the Naked Running Man. I was going to bring that up.
That's completely okay. Yeah. So for the viewers or whoever's listening, I mean, that deserves, you know, an explanation. You know, that's so funny. I do run in my spandex. I have something I'm trying out, to be honest with you.
DM me, I'll let you know where we live.
Oh man, okay. There's a few things with that since you brought that up because, like, okay, I do run in spandex, no shirt, hat, but I wanted to design something, that was good for men as well to have, and also to be, be athletic. But, I need a place to put my phone, so I'm working it out, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm like, fuck. But, in some ways it's okay for me to just kind of let things go, because I have, huge insecurity issues.
Hey, I only know this because I'm on the corner.
That's funny though. He said he's insecure.
Oh, yeah.
You were a Navy SEAL. You're like the badassest of all people on the planet. And you say you're insecure.
When you run, Brandon, like I have said, like I'll honk, I'll wave. You were in a zone unlike no other. So naked running man is not paying attention.
I'm usually mad, I'm usually got, a war going inside me. That's how I always explain it. There's something that I have to get out, and it doesn't really, need anybody else's like approval or explanation. I'm just kind of in my zone, and I just, I need to get that out so I can be good for the day. And sometimes I just don't wake up at the, crack of dawn when I should to run in like that motherfucker. And sometimes I do swim and get out and do that, So, I don't want to be like the only, but I'm just on the verge of trying to really, push the boundaries of my own. Like I said, insecurities. I think that was one of the reasons why I joined anyway. I was looking for validity in this world. I think I came from a place that was so racist. I got in so many fucking fights for being called everything, right? I mean, if you listen to me, like especially when I'm drinking, I'm country as fuck.
Yeah.
I really am. And I really don't even speak any Spanish, It's just my parents came from a place in Fort Worth, and, they had their own things that they had to come up with, with, hey, don't speak Spanish, hitting, you with rulers. And they wanted to keep me out of that. And they thought, moving me to the, country, where
the redneck.
I'm the only person that doesn't look like anybody else, dude. Like, what the fuck do you think was going to happen, dude? So, and I'm also happy for it too, because I lived this life to learn some really valuable lessons, and just because, one person bad, it doesn't mean the lot. And I even had my own run in with the cops, just pulling me over and just like, because I looked a certain way. Right. But I think it's because they were taught wrong.
Sure.
It's not like they're bad people. It's just sometimes that hatred runs so damn deep, it just, it was a learning experience. Right. And it served me in my military career, because it gave me, I was already criminally minded, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm always looking around my back. I'm always super aware, it wasn't the beginning of anything, dude. I'm always kind of used to surviving in those really kind of hostile environments. And I was okay, this was completely different, but I think it prepared me, for the journey.
Do you think, looking back, like at your naval career, what was the hardest for you? Was it the mental or was it the physical?
Oh man, for me it was both. I mean, are you talking about the training wise?
Just the active act of being a Navy SEAL. Did you find yourself?
I think the detachment from your family was the hardest. Man, when you're with all the guys. Okay, when you said hard, it's all hard. Everything's hard. Yeah. You're up 18, 20 hours. You're pushing everybody's limits. You're shooting all day, all night, blowing up, and coming back, eating together, grouping together. You're with each other all the time.
There's your family.
And when you're off, you're fighting. We were fighting. We were training. We were jujitsu. MMA was huge, so it was so embedded, like every minute. And it was cool too, because that's the way I've always kind of like really been with my life. I think that like I'm always been all in or all out. Like I don't really have an in between. So
that's
something
the way
that
I am, isn't it?
Yeah.
I won't even get up.
Your biggest competitor is yourself. Because I find that a lot with kind of extreme athletes or elite military, and you're intense at everything you do, but you're passionate, and that's the thing. It's like not only you're intense, you're passionate of what you do. Speaking about your children, your wife, your naval career, you're passionate.
Yeah, I
you're
naked.
You're naked running spandex.
It's never gonna go away. Oh, Drip, I'm so sorry I brought this on you, dude. You're like, what the fuck is that naked ass Navy SEAL running around showing his tail, dude? He's got a fucking hole in his crotch, dude. Get him the fuck out of here. No, but when you were saying, the hardest thing, absolutely, is just kind of being away from the family.
Yeah.
That distance from your loved ones, to be able to like have some sort of love relationship. It just takes an immense amount of work. Me and my wife have done so much marriage counseling and therapy and like, you know, marriage retreats and, you know, just, you know, books. And
But you're still trying. You're still learning. You've been married 22 years.
Yeah.
You're still, she's the love of your life. She's worth it. She's worth every
worth-
last drop of
Well,
energy.
all
you
good
put into it.
relationships.
every last drop, and you're worth, and you know what I mean? You're right. Like all of that is paid off into what it is today, you know, even in her worst state, we always find time to like, you know, love each other and like, you know, enjoy life.
Even the best marriages, you got to work on them 24/7.
There's no secrets, right?
That's
to any
right.
life, you know,
That's
if
right.
you want it,
Work
you
for
got to
it.
work for it. You got to
That's exactly-
sacrifice something.
that's exactly
It's
right.
like if you want the good life, dude, you got to fucking go to fucking
Yeah.
therapy because I hate that shit.
Yeah,
I
I do
did.
too.
I
I do
did, right? So guys have a hard time. I think that that's another thing that like in the military, especially in my circle,
Oh, yeah.
you know, we have a hard time saying, hey, dude, I need some fucking help.
Yeah.
And so like when you're talking about getting out and transitioning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what kind of what we're rolling into is like that is such a shit storm, you know, because I got out and there was not that there needed to be because there probably hasn't been since the beginning of time, but now that, you know, we have the ability to treat
And
you
more
know,
awareness about it.
and more awareness
Yeah.
and like hey, we're actually doing studies and like dudes are like not dying, you know, they're not killing each other. They can't, how do you go 20 years, right? And then come back and then like you end your life, you know, and like there's such a disconnect there. It's like, you know, when you get pulled out of that universe, you know, whatever it was, whether it was you coming out and saying, hey, I'm done, or medically, or, you know, some of the guys coming out that, you know, are retiring, you know.
You've had brothers that have, you know, I mean, Navy brothers that have decided to choose that path, and it's
To kill themselves?
yeah.
It's a tough one. It's a thing that we, you know, and the community, you know, are heavily experiencing, you know. It's a tragedy, you know, and I don't know what the big answer is. There's a lot more that's been brought to the table, right?
But you said it. You said it just about 2 minutes ago. You said there's no secrets to life. The secret is to work. And not that these people have given up and tried to not work. It's like it's even work on other people's part. We still need to work. We know better. We do better, right? We need to help these people as
Yeah.
well.
I could see, you know, when you're a Navy SEAL, you're surrounded by these brothers, these people you're really tight with, and you're probably held up a little bit on a pedestal when you're in the Navy, right? When somebody goes, oh, this guy's a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
There's
lot
gotta
of
be
that,
some of that.
right?
So,
Like,
and then
absolutely.
all of a sudden you retire and you're out of that, and then you're just Joe Blow that's working at
Taking
his
the
job.
trash
I'll
out.
tell you like
Yeah.
this: like when you have a chance to be in the military at that level, at least in my journey, you feel like you're wearing a cape.
You
do, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, you feel. I mean, there's a big, there's a big energy.
Yeah.
You know, when you're going around and like you know that like no one else has done to that point what
Yeah.
you've experienced for the most part.
Yeah.
And
Actually,
you
we
can
can't
stand
even,
on that.
honestly, Brandon, we can't even imagine what you've done. I'm seriously, we see the stuff on TV, but we don't know some of the stuff that you had to do to get to where you were.
The sights, the smells, the sounds, it probably haunts a lot of people in your position. And like what you're talking about, the transitional wise and what you're doing now, I think in my position personally, how you treated and how you trained my kiddo, my 18, 19-year-old kiddo, he was your kid at that moment. And you have mentored so many of those younger kids to fight those battles and to learn how to get through that particular type of training.
What motivates you to do that?
I'll tell you, it's very simple. I wish I had it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I wish I had somebody to be like, dude, you can do it. Here's a way. But you got to go the hard way because there's no other way around
Yeah.
it. If you find yourself hurting, dude, you found yourself in the right place, right? And if you can continue to do
supposed
that.
to hurt.
Yes, this is supposed to be a willingness of self, right? And you have to like experience that to really kind of understand it. And like Tate, you know, like he did such a good job. I mean, he didn't show up with everything together. I mean, there were some sounds and he was making, you know, he was like, fuck, dude, you know?
And throwing up.
Yeah. And like laying down, you know, he hadn't had a chance to really feel that kind of pressure and pain, you know, when we're all trying to like beat each other, you know, but it brings out the best. I'm sure when he's around his buddies now, you know, they all kind of bring it out of each other. You know, it's almost a sparkish kind of game. You know, you're all trying to do better. It's not, you know.
What do you, when you're talking about Tate hurting like that, what are you talking about doing? Are you talking about lifting weights? You talking about swimming? You talking
everything.
about running?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. You know, when I was doing those things, I mean, I would put like a CrossFit workout, and add a swim or run. It was nothing fantastic.
Yeah.
And we would do that into succession of being a couple hours or something.
Yeah.
I wanted him to push his limits, but also in the heat. And the heat really does most of the work.
Yeah, right? I know.
Because you could do a small workout and do it just as fast. Man, you're done.
You're cooked.
It doesn't work for me. But really it was just to, see where, if this is what you want, right? Because this is, obviously on your mind, right? Your heart's saying something to you. It's like, hey, dude, like, you can't get it out of your mind, because that's how I was. I can see it on them. That's why I know, they had the shorts, they had the shirt, they look like cadets.
You look
and
the
whatever.
part.
Yeah. I was like,
the
come
part.
over here. I think I can help you.
Yeah.
And he was willing enough to at least show up every day, and I got to be honest with you. I mean, that was my transition period, and those kids helped me. Because I'd still kind of show up drunk and stoned,
Really?
Like, yeah, I was still fucked up. I mean, I was trying to soothe myself,
Yeah.
but I wanted to be good with the kids. And so a lot of times, I was still drinking beers back then, so I had a little belly, but I put out, just for that. And sometimes that ended up becoming my accountability partner, and I stopped kind of.
You needed them like they needed you.
Isn't that
probably
funny?
more.
Isn't that funny?
I remember, and I think I've told this story before, but I don't know if I've ever told you this story, when Tate said he was going through the swimming portion when he was underwater, and they keep him underwater for however long, and he says when you start to drown, your body starts to convulse.
Yeah,
he goes,
chicken necks.
You look like you're having a seizure. I actually have video of Tate going through that, and that he says, but I know that I got another minute left after that. And he goes, when that would start to happen, he goes, I would remember, and I'd just roll my eyes like, this is boring. And I'd get to the part, and he's like, but that's the part where most people get comfortable and they start ingesting water. And he goes, I knew I had another minute to do whatever I had to do, or however long, 45 seconds, whatever it is.
Great experience.
But I think it was that training with you, that mindset. You did say something. It's like, you're supposed to hurt. This is supposed to hurt.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, I was a kid that was searching for a reason to be something, right? And I could see some similar qualities in the young men, there was another young man named Sam, and he was adopted, but he was like 90 pounds overweight, but I could see that, and he dropped the weight, did the workouts, and he's
Merchant Marine. Is that
no,
the merchant?
he's man, this is where am I?
Paratrooper? I can't remember. I remember.
He's a PJ for God bless America. I'm drawing a blank.
What's a PJ?
But he's in the special forces.
Oh,
right?
really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he went the process, he's gotten married, and, he keeps sending me videos, which, Tate does eventually, every once in a while. And that makes me happy.
I'm sure it does.
And I told the boys too, I was like, hey, dude, like, I don't care. There's going to be a time when I'm old and I'm a dinosaur, and you guys get to come back and you have to buy me beers,
Yeah.
And it happened like 3 weeks ago, one of the
that's
guys
great.
showed up and, was, hey man, took me out and got to have a couple of drinks.
That's
so
great.
Those are always great stories.
It's funny you say that, because in that Lone Survivor book, Marcus Luttrell, he had somebody like that in his life too. He had this guy that was like a 60-year-old retired Marine that gave him the workouts and told him what he needed to do to get ready.
The workouts aren't really, anybody can do them.
Yeah.
Right. You got enough time, you can do them. It's always the additive, having that mentor, having that person there to say, dude, I love you. You can do it.
Accountability too.
And that's it, dude. And I know you can do it, and I'm proud of you. Man, those things right there, lift the soul just straight to the moon.
Yeah. I want to fanboy here for just a second. And I want to say that I want you to talk about your relationship with Eddie Gallagher. And I'm really ticked that he came to the house and I didn't get to meet him. And
well,
what
Eddie,
a remarkable story.
Eddie is a busy person. So sometimes when he's around like loved ones and family, we keep him private. He's already on the go and
he's
podcast,
he's on the news and
he's a remarkable guy. Eddie's so rad. He's probably one of the toughest guys I've ever met. Let me just put that out. I mean, I don't know, what you guys know about him, but like, this is the guy that like.
I had a free Eddie shirt. Or
yeah.
I did have a free Eddie
shirt.
I'd
love that. I love you for that.
He's the guy that. Tell the story about him.
Yeah. So I mean, really, he got in trouble because some young SEALs did something. I mean, they went over the top of him, and said some things that weren't true. right? And it just brought a whole nasty events. He went to jail. I mean, you're talking about solitary confinement. You're talking about like
they pulled his kids out.
And I mean,
Gunpoint,
Eddie used to live like, I don't know, 4 houses down from me, in the Navy. So we're real close. We go to church together, same church, same rock church. I mean, dude, this is the guy that he's the same guy. Prays all the time. He's not. It's weird. It's weird to be in a position to even talk about this because I feel like it's such a tragedy, even in the SEAL teams, right? It's a break, it's a fracture.
Well, it really was, wasn't it? I mean,
and just
brother
the way it all
brother,
came
right?
out, right? I mean, I feel like it's just different, But yeah, no, he's probably the toughest guy that I've ever known. Just tremendous athlete, great father, loving friend. He knows that. When he did come down, he got a little scoop of what, was going on, and him and Andrea sent us some money, just for like, for medical stuff and, Tessa's doing some stuff. So, man, I can't say enough about him, Trev, Ava, Ryan, the babies, we've all kind of grown up in the same place. And so, it was just cool. I got to serve with him, he was in my sister platoon. So, I did 2 platoons. And so he was in my sister platoon. He was in Delta. I don't know. I mean,
I think for me to follow Eddie's story, I really became aware of Eddie and really paid attention to it because of you and Tessa. And then I just really dove really deep into what was going on and followed the hearings and followed everything that happened. And I continue to follow him. And his wife is tremendous, just like the support. Like the
she's a beast.
Heck yeah. Like the way Tessa supports you, man.
She's such a strong individual,
a beast in heels,
just a strong individual.
And I just think her sense of style
and she
is tremendous.
loves that man. She loves that man and that family. So
that's cool. I want to circle back. We were talking about racism when you were growing up.
Yeah.
Did you find in the military that there's a lot less racism than out in the general, just like out in the world?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that dies.
Yeah.
You don't find, I mean, it always exists.
Yeah.
There's no real good scenario, but I will say that it does die down, right? When you're overseas and the only person that you got, right? It doesn't matter.
You don't care what their color is.
Oh man, we speak the same language.
Yeah.
It comes down to like not colors and all of the
religion,
nothing of that matters. It doesn't matter if you're from New York, man. It doesn't matter, man. I mean, your world gets so small over there, and it's like, if you want any connectivity, you should probably, throw some of those things that, you thought were real away, because they're not. When you get down to it, I mean, we're all cool. We're all human, we should be able to like communicate like humans,
Well, and the reason I'm asking you that is because, I was telling you earlier, my dad's 30 years in the Navy, so we traveled all around the world. And I didn't know because I left the States in first grade and I didn't come back till my senior year. I didn't know what racism was until I came back to the United States. I had black friends. I had Asian friends. I had Mexican, Hispanic friends. It didn't matter to me. But when I came back to the States, we have a lot more lines here.
Yeah.
A lot more divisions.
Definitely in the South, right? It's definitely in the South. I mean, there's nothing you can, I don't know what is going to change that either. I mean, it's a hard one, but yeah, I mean, racism is, it's going to be everywhere, right? And there's always, forms of, people that, will never get past, their past.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I'm circling back to Buds and Hell Week. So Buds is the entire training program, right?
Yeah. It's entirety. I think it's like 26 weeks, something like that.
It ends with Hell Week.
So Hell Week is probably the 4th week.
Oh,
it's in the beginning. Yeah, you get a big washout at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Imagine like, you condense your class down to the ones that really want to be there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the first phase is just beatings. You're at the sand, you're picking up a log with your boat crew. It's a lot about formations. It's a lot about, accountability with your buddy. Where's your buddy? You know what I mean? Taking ownership of things that like, you normally wouldn't. Even if it's just a boat, right? You have a boat on top of your head, but like, if you're in charge, you're in charge, so you take ownership of that boat, make sure your guys are there, make sure everybody's aware. So it was just training you for, being a soldier.
Yeah.
Do you get nicknames in
Yeah, I mean, I've had so many nicknames. I've had one, Nacho, Space Chicken.
Space Chicken.
Yeah, because like I got legs like a chicken, and I always look like I'm stoned. So, Cruise Missile, Cruise Box. Yeah, I always, and then obviously Doo Doo, which is the one.
That's
That's funny.
I mean, Doo Doo was really the one that like
that stuck.
Yeah, it stuck for sure. Oh, what a funny thing.
I have nicknames for Steve too. But.
Yeah, but she won't tell me. So you go through Hell Week, and then you got another 19 weeks after that of training. So Hell Week is like, that's just to wash, sort of like filter down, wash people out.
It's a week long. You don't really sleep, maybe 3 hours of sleep, and you're just continuously moving through different exercises and things, that they have.
Running up and down the beach. And
a lot of, some of it's, just to confuse you, a lot of cold, just keeping you in the water, you know what I mean? They had it so good though, because like even when they had you in the water, they were, it was cold enough where it was taking out the inflammation too. Can you imagine?
Oh, that's funny.
Everyone's doing this cold therapy now, you know what I mean? I didn't know it back then. I was like, man, fuck this cold water's cold as fuck, But like when you get out, I was like, man, why are we able to do so much? And now looking back, the salt and all the stuff that has all the, healing properties,
Oh, wow.
Like actually
I was going to ask you along with that, how old are you now?
I'm 44.
So do you feel just as strong as you did back then? Or do you feel like, what are your consequences to all of this? You just beat the crap out of your body for the last 20 years.
Yeah. So. I think it's an understanding of self, right? There was a time and period where I could be as bad as I could.
Yeah.
As my vessel was all like, healed. Oh man, I could just, you felt like you could rage and you could still heal. Now I don't feel like that. I feel like I'm strong enough, I think that there's still limitations to the body and, that I feel at this age, but I feel that at this age, I feel like I'm still strong.
Brandon, wait 15 years. When you get to be my age, man, it gets a lot worse. Trust me, a lot worse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking forward to getting older. I'm just trying to like maintain, as much as I can, as long as I can.
You know what I've struggled with is my brain still tells me I can do it.
Yeah,
but the body doesn't. The body doesn't agree, and it's not mind over matter like what you're talking about. It's like I just am not physically able to do it. It's
just different now. It was there was a period there, where even after the SEAL teams, where I would still work in the security element, personally.
Yeah.
And wearing a kit, carrying a gun, that all has a shelf life.
Yeah.
It has a shelf life.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, for most people, right? I mean, obviously there's the ones that, they're the exception to the rule, but for the most part, that has a shelf life in the mentality of it, right? You're going out, coming back, like.
Well, you're an adrenaline junkie, so now you're a civilian, right? So I know I was writing this down about what you do, and I said that you're a climber of rocks.
I love to rock climb. I love it.
But you're constantly looking for
I was going to ask you, what do you do now to stay in shape? What's like a normal weekly exercise regime for you?
I actually am very lucky to have friends. I've gotten some people that give me workouts, Evan Eichler, and also there's a new company that is working with called Bullet.
Okay. Like CrossFit kind of
USA.
workouts?
Well, it's more of like, wearing kit, you've probably seen Murph workouts and things like that, but it has, the kit, and then the load bearing stuff, but it genuinely gives me more of a functionality, kind of workouts. But for me, I just like wearing the kit. It feels, there are
like
some
a weighted blanket.
Oh man, yes, it really is. If I had a sling on there, but it's one of those things where some things get you to a spot. There's a piece of the kit that goes, fucking velcros.
Yeah,
and it gets me right to a sense of warrior spirit. I know it sounds.
Wow, no,
you just putting on your kit and taking it off and all the stuff. So, anyways, I've been enjoying that, but I also do some boxing. My son is 19, and so we do a lot of the rock climbing and all the stuff that I have always loved anyway. And he loves fighting and MMA, and so we watch a lot of that stuff too. So I kind of give myself a variety. I don't like to stay too stagnant. I'll get bored. If it's just weights and running and swimming. I mean, I'll be over it real quick. Unless it's for something.
You're
Tigger. Exactly. Even in my workouts, man, it's got to be fucking weird and different.
we're getting down near the end of our time.
Yeah, no worries.
I wanted to ask you about, obviously you still have some friends in them that are active duty military.
Yeah, I do.
How do they feel about how the military is being run now?
It's a good question. I think that they say a lot of the politics, but the guys are the guys, they're still the same, right? I mean, for the most part, all the guys are the same. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean guys, I mean women too.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave women out because it's such a big part of the military now, and it's going to be completely adaptive and changing, with, the additive of women and fighting a war in a technological way, right?
Mm-hmm. We're fighting it a lot different now than we used to. Yeah.
Right? I mean, it changes what we're doing, right? I think that they did different standards, right? So that the DOD a long time ago, I believe, they changed it so that, you could be a little overweight, you could,
Mm-hmm.
they're getting a different, group of people that are, this is the way we're going to fight war though, because, the computers and drones and
it's not
all the stuff and
not out in the battlefield as much.
Yeah.
Do you think that the days of the secrecy of being a SEAL, and now, Steve and I were talking about this, that there's so many former SEALs that are profiting off of the fact that they were SEALs and are bringing a lot more of that position to light. Do you think you think that's good or is that bad?
I don't know. Okay. So, we were talking about, since in my opinion, some of the stuff that like Lone Survivor and then slowly, all the what you see today. I mean, I never joined for that.
You didn't join to become a movie star.
I feel like though that we've given off that this is sexy job.
Yeah.
And if you want it, here's an avenue to go get it. But I think that the product might be a little different, because what we have done to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's more Hollywood, right? And some of the things that we do are not. It's nothing to do with Hollywood. You're sitting in a fucking shitty hole. You know what I mean? Like for a long time, and doing the worst thing. So, and you got to be selfless, and so some of those things can be a little bit,
glamorized.
You're looking for different. You're looking for it for yourself, right? You know what I mean? And then I think that if you don't have that servant based, unionship of something like I'm in it for you, it does. I mean, you asked that question, but I mean, in a way I'm doing it too. I don't know what it's going to do. I think that right now it's a very, in a soft, as we're coming out and being more light, it's almost really military, it's very strong. And, I'm not saying that it's bad because I feel like it does have its advantages, right? I think that we're living in a soft world. I'm not mad at it, but I don't think that it always translates
beneficial.
It doesn't translate across anymore, right? Because you got people that it'll instantly turn you off when there's a lot of lessons that they're trying to and give you. A lot of things that they're really giving you that are invaluable, right? They're life lessons in the battle and whatever else in the experiences. But sometimes, I feel like, man, it's a little too strong for sometimes, there's a little bit of like being vulnerable, man, like and saying, hey, dude, like I know what we've, I see, you can see I may have like this cape atmosphere, but I'm not. I'm human just like everybody else.
So where do you see yourself down the road now? You're retired. You've had a couple of different, avenues that you're going through. Like, what are you doing right now? You said that you're a security analyst. Right?
I am working for an insurance company. I'm a security analyst for a company called Technical Risk Underwriters. And it's a great job. I'm allowed to work at home. I'm still kind of working that part out. Really, I think that I feel there's...
You're not going to be a Walmart greeter anytime soon.
Not even.
I don't know. I like this stuff. I like podcasts. I like, I did something like it was random. I did a podcast a while back and a production company reached out to me and, I thought I was going to be on TV. No shit. I was like, oh man, it was for one of the bigger ones. I'm like, okay, cool. And it didn't work out. Right. And, but the experience that I had, the people, the producers, they were all saying that I was really good. So I don't know. I'm thinking I'm going to do something, a little more visible, and, but I don't know what it is, I just still working.
You know what, man, I am so honored that you've taken time out of your day. And
thanks for your time.
You're a fascinating person, Brandon.
I appreciate that.
You truly are. And just from this mama heart to you, you know, I thank you for the position that you helped get to, and I really appreciate
and
that.
thanks for your service to our country
Absolutely.
too.
Yeah.
It's
I
so
appreciate you guys having me. You know,
Yeah.
I know that's you know, it's just such a weird place to be, but I always appreciate, you know, having a chance to spread some light and whatever it is, a little love, you know, if people are listening, you know, like, hey man,
yeah.
The servant
everything's
heart.
okay.
There's a
You
lot of
know,
people
we're-
out there that need to hear that right now.
for sure. We're all giving hugs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks, Brandon. I really
Thank you,
appreciate you coming in.
All right, thank you.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallett Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at mallettintegrityteam.com.
Thanks for listening.
If you have comments or feedback, please email us at mallettandmichelle@gmail.com.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Mallett and Michelle.
Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher.
Please follow us and leave a review.
Thanks again for listening.